mechanical fuel pump push rods. The older small block Chevy blocks were drilled for them. The newer age fuel injected blocks were not. So the question is, can you accurately drill out this hole at your house without the super expensive jig? The answer is yes. Now, this is my first time trying out this job, and normally in a how-to video, somebody would show you all the tools and material you're gonna need at the start of the video, but you're just gonna have to watch my redneck brain work and fabricate stuff along this whole video. And then at the end of the video, I'll tell you everything you're gonna need tool-wise, material-wise, and let me just tell you right now, this thing worked out flawlessly. I'm pretty impressed with how good this worked out. So without further ado, roll the intro. Alright guys, welcome to Cherezian Racing. I'm just going to do a quick video here, an instructional video on something I've never done before. So, how's that sound? What I got here is a 1995 350 block that does not have the provisions for the mechanical fuel pump. And so you guys may or may not remember in the last video, I traded my buddy Johnny an IMCA stock car that I had that is motorless. And I told him I was going to build him a motor. That's going to be the motor. Obviously, it's not even close to being done yet. I still got to go to the machine shop, get board 40 over. But this one has already the provisions for the mechanical fuel pump. So, in the meantime, dirt race season is kind of creeping in with it being already December now. So I'm just going to give him this motor for the time being. This is just a stock 350 that came out of that green truck that you guys may or may not have seen like 3 or 4 episodes ago when I did the motor swap. Put a crate motor in it. So this thing has a lot of miles on it, but it still runs on all 8. So I was just going to go ahead and give it to him to put in the car for now so they can get some laps until this motor gets built. But the rules state that you can't run an electric fuel pump, so I need to make this work here. So they do make a tool for this. It's a jig. And it bolts onto like where these 2 bolts are here, and then it will give you like the template here where you drill all these holes for the fuel pump itself, and then also another template to drill for the fuel pump push rod and the oil drain bag. So it's about $1,000. The Engine Quest CJ305 has a part number on it, so that's going to be a hell no. I'm not going to buy that. Not even close. I mean, I might do this 2 times, 3 times my whole life. So definitely not worth it. I'm not a machine shop. So I got an idea how to make this work. They already give you 1 hole that's already been drilled and tapped. And so I've got this block off plate here, and I put it on this block right here, and it pretty much is flush on both sides and the bottom here. So I know that when I put this guy on here, I'm just gonna try to line it up as best I can, and it's really kind of hard to get off. So once that guy is lined up, I'm gonna tighten this bolt down and then show you where we're gonna go from here. All right, just got done drilling all the holes and tapping them as well. So you're just gonna wanna make sure that when you're drilling, you're going as perpendicular as you can. Make sure you're going really straight. This is the big one down here, and this is a 3/8 16 tap. And then the small hole for the for these 2 guys is a 1/4 20. All right guys, so I'm kind of making this up as I go along, mostly reading the instructions on the CJ305 jig and going along with what they say and trying to make up my own design. So you're gonna need another one of the plates here. It doesn't have to be a block off plate like this one was that we used to do the template here. You can use another one of these, but you're gonna need another donor. So you can use the just an old junky one of these plates that are used to housing the fuel pump on them, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drilling down here for the first hole, which is the oil drain bag. There's only 2 holes you have to drill, and that's one is the oil drain bag that goes into the crankcase down here, and then the other one obviously is the one that goes to the camshaft. So doing this one first, tighten this guy up real good, and this hole, which is the oil drain bag, which is kind of hard to see in there, is a 3/8 drill bit which is this guy right here. No, this guy. And unfortunately, when you stick this guy in there, it's too short to get a drill on there. Luckily, I have an extra long 3/8 drill bit. So this is something you're gonna need, is an extra long 3/8 drill bit. And you're gonna go through the hole and gonna contact there, and you're just gonna go ahead and drill through it. All right, she's through. All right, so now that the hole is drilled, if I take my drill bit and go back in there, as you can see, I just put it in there. If I was to use that hole to line it up, there's no way I'm gonna get the right angle on that thing. Once it goes in the hole, sure. But for drilling on the fresh block, that ain't gonna cut it. So I'm gonna have to find some kind of guide here to go over this. And I found this, which actually fits it really good. So maybe I could use that and weld it on there. I also found this little small tube thing here. It's not very thick, but it also fits it really good, and it's round. So I guess the correct thing to do here would be to get some kind of maybe like hardened steel tube that fits it real good. This is a 3/8 drill bit, obviously, so like a 3/8 inner diameter tube, or like chrome moly or something that fits it real good. And you want it to be pretty long, so I can go ahead and have the guide be real sturdy. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up this hole a little more, and then probably maybe fit this guy in there, because I'm not really thinking I'm going to be doing this job probably more than 5 times my whole life, so I don't really think this is going to get too worn out that quick. But I'm going to open up that hole a little bit, hog it out, and then I'll go ahead and stick this guy back in there so it's lined up, and then I'll go ahead and push this guy probably halfway in, halfway out probably, and start slowly welding it up, and hopefully it will stay nice and tight and straight. So we'll see what happens. All right, y'all, so I went ahead and made that hole a little bit bigger. I basically took the biggest drill bit I had in my kit here, which is a 1/2 inch, and went ahead and enlarged it to that size. And then I decided to go with this guy for now, just a little 1/2 inch square tube. And I don't know what wall it is, but it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that because it's what I have lying around. So you can see that kind of looks like a square now for that reason. And so when I stick that 3/8 drill bit all the way in there, I'm gonna go ahead and stick this guy, which actually fits really tight on it. I don't know if I showed you that or not, guys, but it's like a really tight fit, hardly any wiggle on this thing. And so I'm gonna shove it all the way in there until it bottoms out. I'm gonna pull it back just a hair, and then I'm gonna go ahead and weld it in right there. All right, so I'm gonna try to just barely tack this thing. I got it on a real low setting here, my welder, so it doesn't generate a lot of heat. I'm just gonna try to go ahead and barely tack it on one side, tack it on the other side, probably do all 4 corners, and then hopefully then it'll be sturdy enough for me to start welding and it won't really twist at all. So let's give her a shot. All right, got her freed up, and she's pretty close, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish the weld all the way around and recheck it. Okay, got it all welded up on all the sides here, and let's see if this guy will pop out here. Oh yeah, she's free. All right, so I let this sit on the block and cool down now for a while without quenching it at all. And sure enough, still slides in and out just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this guy to use on the block and drill her out. All right, so that's what she looks like after it's all said and done. Is that worth $900, you guys? Well, we'll see how good it works first, huh? All right, this is probably pretty obvious to say, but you're gonna want to have these bolts tightened down real good. So here goes nothing. Alright, I'm not gonna say that was easy. Definitely took a little while to drill all the way through, but she is through, and she looks like she's in the exact spot she needs to be, just like the other one. And I highly suggest not doing this on a motor that's already built and about ready to run, like I did. But if you do, I want to bring out your vacuum cleaner and put your shop vac down there and suck out all the metal as it comes out before it goes down. This is just going to be a junker motor that I just need to run just for a little bit. Don't care about it. All right, so like I said, it wasn't the easiest thing, but it wasn't the hardest either. It definitely took some manpower to really push that drill and let it cut. And I'm gonna tell you guys this right now. When you're going ahead and pushing in, try to go with the grain of this guide here. If you know what I'm saying, try to push forward and don't push down or push up or side to side. Try to keep it as straight as possible so you don't eat into your guide any more than you have to. But I think it went real good, and she don't seem too wobbly in there after the run went in. So I think I can probably get at least another 2, maybe 3 runs out of this guy right here. But only time will tell, I guess. But now it just made me realize that the hole for the freaking fuel pump push rod is going to be one hell of extravaganza, because that is like digging to China. That's a long distance to go. This is only that far, and it was a small drill bit. This is a 1/2 inch drill bit, and you got to go from here all the way to here. So that's going to take some manpower. I'm going to have to really beef up that guide really good going into it. So let's get to it. All right, so this is the 1/2 inch drill bit I'm going to be using to drill the push rod hole for the fuel pump. And so I've come to conclusion I'm going to be using sockets here. This is a 1/2 inch socket right here, and there's not too many things that are better to use, I think, than tool steel on this stuff, because it's really hard to drill into. And so what I did, I'll show you how I did on this other one here. I'll show you how I will do it. But basically what I did is I hogged this guy out. This is a 1/2 inch deep socket that was a 1/4 inch at one time, 1/4 inch drive, and I've drilled it out, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a second. But I've drilled it out so it barely fits on here, right? And so it's a tight fit. And so I need it to be a very, very tight fit, but I also need it to be sturdy. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one right here, which is actually a 13 mil, which is almost a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on that, and I'll put them both on there and then weld them together so I have a longer guide that we're working with here. And I just realized that you really don't need this first drill bit I was telling you guys about, the long 3/8 that goes through this way to drill your pilot hole, because I just realized that I'm not going to be able to do that for the push rod here. So you guys can just kind of look at where the general areas you need to drill this guy for the drain back there, and then go ahead. I'd probably just start with a small drill bit, and then try to find the best center you can, and then open it up, and then once it's big enough to stick some kind of whatever you guys are going to use for the guide in there, then you can weld it up. So on this guy, obviously there's no hole there, so I'm not going to be able to go in there and drill it back. So I'm just going to go ahead and put on my a block off plate and eyeball it as best I can, and start, somewhere around there. I'll probably just eyeball it on that block and go ahead and start opening it up more and more until it's big enough to fit these sockets through at the correct angle. So drilling out tool steel is no small task, but I found a way that actually you can do with just some regular hand tools, and the key is a good burr set. So this is the key for getting this guy to be opened up properly. So that's what it will look like. I'm going to show you right now how I'm going to do it. Alright, so I put on my little pointier burr to start the deal out. So I'm going to go in there and start hogging it out. And once we get close to getting to the 1/2 inch mark, this is my 1/2 inch drill bit. As you can see, I broke it. But when we get closer to the 1/2 inch mark, we're not going to want to keep on hogging it. We're going to want to start drilling it. So once it's the size, it's perfectly round and smooth. So it's going to be a tight guide for the drill bit here. So just first off, the burr is going to take this stuff off pretty easily. So get it in the vise real good, and then just start working it as you can. Make sure you're not hogging out one side only. try to do it evenly in a circular motion. So just start hogging it out and ready time. Alright, so you might be wondering at this point why I just didn't use like a 1/2 inch drive or a 3/8 inch drive deep socket, which would have been longer and thicker. And it's because I had these guys laying around there as spares, so I didn't have another one. But yeah, if you want to use a longer, like probably 3/8 is better because you have the room to open it up. 1/2 inch probably wouldn't be as tight on this end. So you could have used a longer one and maybe just used one, but I'm going to use two just because I had them and it'll be longer than even one would be. So what I've done so far is gotten it pretty good with this guy. Opened it up, hogged it out, and get yourself a brand new drill set. This is from Harbor Freight. I think it's like less than 10 bucks. And you know, for the price of what the tool was for the fixture and all that, $900, 10 bucks really ain't gonna hurt you too bad. So get a fresh set of drill bits, and what you're gonna want to do now is find a drill bit that goes through just barely. I believe it's this one. So that one goes through. Go one size up to this guy right here. I think this is the one. Yeah. So this guy is not going to go through. I don't know what the science is on this, but if you just took a drill bit and try to drill through there, it's not going to happen because it's tool steel, right? You're not going to get it. But when the drill bit is just barely smaller, or excuse me, bigger than the hole, I don't know what it is, but it'll grab and it will make one pass. And so you better be holding on the drill good just in case it does bite. It might, you know, want to stop abruptly, but I'll show you kind of how this guy works after I take this phone call. Hey, it's Livia. It just bites and goes. And if you're finding that it's really fighting you a lot, just go ahead and polish it up a little more with that. But as of right now, we're that size and we're trying to get to 1/2 inch. So gonna go ahead and hit it more with this guy again, hog it out. See if the next one will fit. If we already passed that size, then we'll go to the next size, and so on and so forth. All right, so once you've stepped up to a size that's big enough for your little finger guy to go ahead and go all the way through, you can go ahead and take off the pointy one and put on the big dog. This is got straight sides, so this guy will go in there and it'll really, you can kind of put pressure on the side. Just go up and down like this in a circular motion and make sure it's even. If you see for some reason that you're taking more off, you know, on one side, just start trying to work on the other side and eyeball as best you can. Try to get it as centered as possible when you're working it. Alright, so we have passed the 7/16, and now we're on to a 29/64. Getting real close to the 1/2 inch mark. So it's really important here to do like I said and go up and down like this, and not angle it and do one of these and make it into a funnel, because as we get closer to the 1/2 inch, we want to keep this as straight as possible to keep the guide tight. So we don't want to, you know, make it like only tight on the bottom here and then it'll be all loosey-goosey on top. So up and down, up and down, up and down like that, and then keep on hitting it with the drill bit. And then once we get closer to the 1/2 inch, like once we get into the 31/64, got one more thing to do and then it'll be ready to go. All right, so here we are. I got the 31/64 drill bit already drilled, and I have flipped the socket back over so it's facing down the well of the socket. So for the 1/2 inch drill, we're going to drill it from the top down, so it's as straight as possible with here. So I'm just going to go ahead and massage it very slightly, getting it all the way down there, and just barely take off no material, and then try to get as close as I can where this guy is just barely bigger, and then that will be my final pass right here. Alright, I have both the pieces floating on the shaft real nice like that, so I'm going to go ahead and weld them together just like that. Alright, so I'm back on the template block here. Got the sleeve all welded together. The drill bit slides nice and easy through it. And so I just stuck the drill bit in the block and got an idea of where it comes out at. It comes out about right, somewhere right about here. So I'm going to start right there. All right, so I took the burr, opened this guy back up a little bit, and got the guide in there. You can see it's running all the way through there. So I'm just gonna go ahead right now and weld her right there. Hit her once here, once there. Small tack weld does not build any heat up, and then once it's all tacked and it's straight, then I'll start going ahead and putting a good bead. I'll put a good bead on this side and probably the other side too. All right, so I got this side all welded up. I'd say it's pretty much in line. All right, guys, I am making this video for you, so you don't have to make the mistakes. I have to make the mistakes. Here's my mistake I made. So as you can see, this is the old block. There's a big hole that goes down to the small hole. The small hole is a 1/2 inch hole for the fuel pump push rod. This is a 1 inch hole, and it's recessed in there quite a bit. And I guess that's just a little bit for the fuel pump arm to have some clearance, but not that much, obviously. But I have a 7/8 inch drill bit here, which is close enough for me, and I was gonna go ahead and do my recess just a little bit to get some clearance with this guy after I drilled the 1/2 inch. So I'd have the pilot 1/2 inch, and then I'd go ahead and take this guy and just kind of go ahead and follow that. I don't think you need a jig for this, because you're just trying to follow the hole. But what I did is, when I made this guy, I didn't really realize how far that guy goes in, and so I should have pulled this guy out a whole lot more, because when you look at the new block, I had to do some serious digging here. But it was like the casting came down like this, so it was way short of a distance. So when I went ahead and put this guide, I went like this, doink, like that far. So I really should have pulled this guide out a whole lot more and then welded it. I wasn't really thinking, but now you guys know. But I ended up just hogging this guy out. It took me a long time to get some clearance. So this guy now will sit flush and it's good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start drilling. All right, so got the bolts tied obviously on the block here, the block plate, and I'm using WD-40, and I'm using it pretty good because you don't want the gall between the guide here and the drill bit. So I'm keeping it lubed up with WD-40. Yeah, I know it's not a real lubricant, but why is it slippery, huh? Tell me if it's not a lubricant, if it's slippery. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna go nice and slow. This is probably an overkill drill bit, but this is something I use for the engine blocks for the galley plug. But I'll probably just measure this guy once I get it down there and tell you how long of a drill bit you're actually gonna need, but this is gonna do the job for me for now. So I'm gonna go really slow and make sure that this shaft stays oiled up with WD-40, and I'll check back in a second. All right, so I took a little peek after I took this block off to see how we're doing. And it actually is going quicker than I thought it was gonna go. It's drilling pretty nice and easy. What I've found so far using this guy is with this drill bit, it's nice because it's only got a drill bit, or the cutting part on the very end, and the rest is good for like being a guide. But the problem is when it's trying to disperse material, it's backing it all the way up to here inside the guide, and it has nowhere to go. So you have to kind of go a little bit and then pull it out, clean your drill off, go a little more, clean it out, so on and so forth. But the main thing is just to make sure this guy and the guide stays nice and lubed up with WD-40 to prevent any galling and from this guy getting too hot and expanding in the guide. All right, so I just busted all the way through. Actually, really wasn't that bad. You can see there's a whole bunch of metal here on the ground. But I probably drilled and pulled that thing out and cleaned it with some brake clean, and then WD-40'd it about 10 times total, in and out, in and out, in and out like that. And that's all it took. And I just measured it, and it came up. So with the guide that I have, you can see how far it's sticking out. This drill bit really only needed to be about 10.5 inches. So a 12-inch drill bit probably be fine, because you'd have plenty of room to grab on, you know, the remaining portion right here of the 12 inches. So that's all it took. All right, so here's the part you guys have all been waiting for, and me too. So here's the old block. There's a push rod coming through it, and when I stick it down just basically where it's starting to pop out, eyeball it, it looks like it's pretty much even, perpendicular to the circle, if you will, here. But I would say that it's moved just a little bit this way, just a pinch. So the movement here is pretty free and easy. I don't really have if you take it and move it up and down, there's like no free play at all. So let's try it on the new block here, the new old block. So let's go ahead. I would say that the fitment on this guy feels maybe just a hair tighter, but nothing crazy. So let's shove it all the way forward. And let's check this out. So let's say right there. Looking at it, I would say it's also perpendicular to the circle, and it also is a little bit this way. So I think we nailed it. And looking at the distance between where the bearing sits and the push rod there, it looks about the same on both sides. So the CJ305 tool, the last tool they have in the instructions to use is a sizer, which is basically just like a reamer that goes down there. And I really don't understand why they have that in there. I think it's maybe just to clean up the hole at all, maybe if you didn't have a good drill job. But let me show you guys something here. This is how easily this thing moves here. And I didn't lube this thing up at all. That's all just dry in there. So it's not getting stuck at all. That feels like some really good clearance. For my race motors I build, I've gotten really good at just feeling like the valve guide clearance by touch. And so when I go like that, back and forth, you can hear it. It's got some clearance, back and forth. And on the other block, it feels exactly the same. So I'm gonna call that good. I'm not gonna worry about any kind of sizer, reamer, whatever. So that's good to go in my eyes. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna do in this video is mock up this fuel pump and check out the clearance. So I have just one bolt on the bottom here on this fuel pump. And when I push this guy in all the way, it doesn't contact the block. Now, granted, there will be the plate that goes in here between the block and the fuel pump, but I'm just doing it without the plate for now just to get an idea of how they compare. So right there, you can see the gap between the fuel pump and the block. And when I push it, it'll contact. But looking down here, it's definitely not the fuel pump lever on the bottom where that big recess is that I thought was for clearance. It's actually contacting up farther up here. Let me show you. So basically, it was this part right here. This is the part that actually touches the push rod on the bottom. But this part right here, this hump, is hitting like right about there. And so when I was looking at this thing, it looked like this tip of the lever doesn't even go into this recess at all. It looks like it's back here. So I really am not sure what this is for. But let's put on a new block just to check it out and see what it looks like. All right, survey says, I got the one bolt in over here. Looks like the same size gap to me over here. And I push it in, it's contacting the same spot. So I'm looking at it on this block, it looks exactly the same. The tip of that lever, I don't know if it's all fuel pumps or just this one, but this is pretty much a generic fuel pump I got from Summit Racing. It does not even go into that recess at all. It looks like if I didn't even touch that and I just drilled the 1/2 inch, it'd be fine. So, if anybody's ever put one of these on, which I'm sure if you're watching this video you have, you know that when you put the fuel pump in, you got to kind of get it, kind of like walk it in onto the fuel pump rod, and then it really takes a lot of sucking in with the bolts, and this arm will come back quite a bit and get some preload on it just from the fuel pump lever itself. So you know that the fuel pump push rod itself. You know that fuel pump push rod is sticking out quite a bit, and so it's going to have even more clearance than it does just by eyeballing it here. So I don't even think you need to have the 7/8 or 1 inch drill bit. I think that's fine. Just leave it the way it is. Make your 1/2 inch drill go all the way through it, and call her good. All right, so to sum up this redneck video, speaking of which, What's a redneck video without drinking a light beer, right? Got a Farmer's Light right here. Check that off the list. Okay, so all the tools in a nutshell that you're going to need to do this job that you just basically watched, hopefully, is a brand new drill set, a carbide burr set with something that's pointy like this, and then something with straight walls like that, a standard tap and die set, a long 1/2-inch drill bit that's at least 12 inches long, and then just like your everyday basic tools that you'd find in any decent man's garage, like a die grinder, whether it be air or electric, a drill, a welder, a vise. That's pretty much all you're gonna need to do this job. Kind of basic stuff. If I had to do this job all over again, I would have done these plates different. Oh, that also brings me to the materials you're gonna need. You're gonna need 2 of these plates. But now that I'm thinking about it, I really could have gone away with using 2 of these guys, because these guys are both drilled towards the bottom. So as you can see, they're almost in the same location, just one's at a different angle than the other one is. But it didn't take a lot of force, like I was saying, to drill this guy out. So I didn't have to push on this. This plate right here wasn't really getting a lot of load on it. So I didn't need it to be a blocked off plate. I didn't need this area to be blocked off like it is here. I think it would have been just as, not as strong, but it would have been totally fine using another one of these. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have done this guy the same way I did this guy with a socket, because this guide right here did not wear at all, where this guy right here, this just basic steel, did wear. So you're gonna need 2 plates and a couple sockets if you want to do it that way, or if you want to get something else that's hardened that will fit your drill bits, the 3/8 and the 1/2-inch tightly, you can do that too. Also, I would have done this differently, obviously, by pulling this guy back a whole lot more and not having to hog out that block to start the drill out with this block off plate being flush with the block. I would have gone ahead and just pulled this guide back so it didn't hit the block over there, and then just drilled that 1/2-inch hole all the way through. And I really wouldn't have even messed with the 7/8 or 1-inch drill bit to do the recess, because it doesn't look like it's going to hit it all, obviously, like I said. But I think I figured out why it's there to begin with. So you see this hole right there, it goes through and it goes into that recess. And if you look over here on the new block, it didn't break through because I didn't give it enough recess. So I think maybe that's why they did that. And that hole is just if you want to stick like a long bolt through it to hold the fuel pump push rod from falling down with gravity. When you change like the fuel pump over here, that's the only reason that guy is there for. So that's pretty much everything you're gonna need to do this job. Wasn't that difficult. I appreciate you guys watching. And remember, you guys, if it's bent, it ain't broken.